Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly and welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show's bonus episode today featuring some of our most interesting interviews of 2025 of the ones that took place in person. They range from comedians like Andrew Schulz, my God, he's hysterical, and Tim Dillon, same, here in studio with me, to Karoline Leavitt and Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C. Zachary Levi and I sat down together, as did Dave Portnoy, and yours truly in the SiriusXM headquarters in New York City. That was fun and great. It was very interesting. Zachary Levi, he's a big Hollywood star. He had a team. Dave Portnoy showed up with no one. That I always love seeing like how they show up, how they come to the venue. They were both interesting. Zachary's all heart, Portnoy's all brawn and brains. Enjoy and see what you think. We'll see you soon. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. More and more Americans are prioritizing their health and getting back in shape. But diet and cardio alone are not enough. If you really want to build muscle and burn fat, you must do strength training. Introducing Jacked Up Fitness. Their all-in-one home gyms are already best in class, and their all-new X Series elevates home fitness to a whole new level. The Power Rack Pro X functional trainer lets you do hundreds of exercises, basically everything you used to do at the gym, all from the comfort of your own spare room or garage. And if you are new to strength training, they offer a free Get Jacked Up program that is full body video workouts. Simply press play and follow along. So no more excuses, right? Go to getjackedup.com and sign up for their free training program. And when you're ready to purchase your own Power Rack Pro X, use our promo code MK to save 10% at checkout. That's getjackedup.com. This whole thing is about your journey with Emma in trying to conceive a baby. Yeah. And no detail is spared. Yeah. But so it's very personal. It was unusually personal for you.
Yeah.
Did you run it by her first?
So the thing was, at first, this is the most male thing, but it's I assumed that the reason why we couldn't is because it was her fault, right? And I talk about it in the special where I'm like, she was really concerned it was her fault, and I was really concerned it was her fault. Like we were all really concerned.
It's obviously her fault.
Yeah, because men, we have this confidence in our sperm that there's no real reason why, but we just know, right? Every time I've ever had sex with a girl, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be crazy. What should we do? How do we, calling the next month? I know she's pregnant, guaranteed. Which I now know is a waste. And once we found out that her ovaries were perfect and my sperm was horrible, it actually made it a lot easier for me to talk about.
Really?
Yeah, because I think the reason why anybody who has fertility issues, one, it's very isolating because you're so protective of the person that you love that you don't. A lot of women feel a lot of shame around this.
Yep, true.
And at first, I felt real shame. I was like, does God not want me to have a child? I didn't understand it. I think I'm a pretty good person and I'm kind to people. And I'm like, why is this happening? What the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. And so I get that. And a lot of women, if they are struggling, they're just they feel like it's I don't feel very stigmatized, right? And but once she was perfect and I was fucked up, I could get on stage and it was really cathartic to talk about it. And then once I started talking about it, I literally thought that I was this was a 1 in 10 million thing.
Oh, wow.
The second I started talking about it, all my friends start telling me that they're doing IVF.
Oh, wow.
And all these people in the audience would hit me up afterwards. They're like, oh yeah, same thing happened. And I was like, what the fuck? Is this the last taboo subject?
How did anybody ever get pregnant before IVF? Because everybody's doing it.
Dude, it is it's unbelievable. It's almost I was like, does anybody really get abortion? It's so hard to get pregnant. Why is this an issue? How often do these athletes have unprotected sex that they have 20 kids? I couldn't believe it. It was unfathomable. So, but then it became there, as brutal as it was, there was these kind of funny moments, that being one of them, just that the humility.
Going into the room with the lady. Oh, we just talked to the audience. Doug came in to say hi to Andrew in the commercial break. And we were bonding over our shared experience because he and I did IVF with our kids too. Yeah. And Doug joked that after he had to donate the sample, first he said he was going to wear a red crushed velvet smoking jacket on his way in, and on the way out he was just going to be like, that was fantastic. I was amazing.
Yeah, I was always thinking about do I make noises in there? How uncomfortable do I make it for the other guys at the clinic? Just screaming random things.
Yes.
Sesame. Sesame Street. Just something crazy. But yeah, it's like, it was crazy.
It was like a walk of shame when you're walking by all the other guys there. Everybody's there. Oh, God, I know what you're about to do.
It's so humbling.
Yes.
Like, you're just sitting in this room, like all of you are in there. You're like,
so why did they make you go in to give the sperm sample? Couldn't they?
So I did it from home once.
Okay.
The whole, I haven't even put like a lot of the stuff in it, but like the whole journey was brutal. So the first one I did from home, which was like, I'm in the room. My wife like hands me the thing, like it's like homework. And she's like, okay, I'll give you 30 minutes. You go do your thing. I'm going to go outside or I'm going to do the dishes. So like I hear her doing the dishes in the background where I'm like being mandated to masturbate. And I'm like on our bed. Like, I don't think I've ever masturbated on a bed. Like, I'm just on our bed, and the bed is made perfectly. Like, everything is, like, set up. And I remember at one point, like, I'm just like, I don't know, this is, like, so weird. And I, like, looked up, and the TV was off, so it was just a black screen. So it's a perfect mirror of me.
Oh, no.
And I was just like, this is the saddest day of my life. I'm sitting Indian style on my bed trying to make a sample to go in this cup. We send that sample in. It comes back. And it's like, it's not good. Oh. And they're like, not only are they not swimming, they're like shaped weird. And I was like a little defensive. So I was like, well, could that be from like the speed that they hit the cup? Like maybe, you know, the blunt force trauma kind of warped them a little.
The flow is just too strong.
It was too strong. That's what it is. And they're like, no, that's definitely not it. And I was like, okay. And they go, well, why don't you do this for like a couple months? Wear baggy underwear, ice your balls every single day.
Oh, ice them.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. I guess that's a big thing. Don't drink anymore. Don't smoke anymore. And take these pills. And then we'll try it again in like a month or two. And I did that, and we tried it again, and it got worse.
No. What?
And I was like, why do you think that is? And the doctor's like, we've never seen this before.
There's some pride in that. Yeah. It's got to be a little bit.
I'm setting records.
I told a story one time when Dave Rubin was on, but Doug had the funniest experience there where they make you ejaculate. Like 24 hours before the real sample that's going to be like your future kid.
Yeah.
They want you to clean the house.
Yes.
It's like, I can't remember if it's 24 or 48 hours.
I think it's 48 hours before. Yeah.
Okay. So, but they want it to be 48.
Yes.
And they don't really want it to be 46 or 44.
Because you need the amount of time to build up the new batch.
Yes. So like timing does matter. It just so happened that on one of ours, we were visiting my Nana, who was literally like 90 at the time. And we were playing dominoes. And I was like, oh, Doug, it's time. And he was like, what? I'm like, you got to go in there right now. My poor husband. And you know, it was like one of these older person's homes where like there's 5 inches between the bottom of the door and the ground. You can hear every piece of conversation and the dominoes, like, you're palming the double 5, you know, and Doug's sitting there behind the door. It's horrible, poor Doug.
This is the thing about this.
Do what you gotta do.
The journey is brutal when you're in it. It is the hardest thing that you'll go through in your life. Sorry, it's definitely the hardest thing we went through. And, but after the fact, it is hysterical.
Yes.
Like,
you can't believe what you've been through.
Yeah. And like, there are so many of these things that are so funny. And the beautiful thing about having a child is you get this like amnesia for what you went through to get there. And I think that's actually kind of like built into our DNA so that we keep making them.
I totally agree.
You know, like
same women have been saying that for eons because of the pain of labor.
Yep.
And it's so, you know, devistating, and then you forget all about it. I never had labor because I had 3 C-sections, but my friends tell me it's extremely painful.
Oh, Emma was in there for 24 hours, and then she had the C-section because the baby's heart rate dropped.
Oh God, that's scary.
Yeah, the whole thing is terrible. When you were doing the shots before to prepare for the IVF, like, did you have any fun mood swings or anything?
Oh yeah, I was actually fine. I did not have weird mood swings, but it was very funny because Doug does not like his mom got this terrible cut in her leg, and it was so brutal. And Doug was right there. He bandaged it up. He put the medicine on. I was like, like I can't take that kind of injury.
Yeah.
But you pull out a needle, and Doug is one of those like,
so he couldn't do the shots for you.
But he had to in the beginning. As it turned out, he didn't have to, but we thought he did.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, they really make it up into a thing. Like, you got to mix the compound, and then it's like kind of back in a hard spot to reach. You got to ice the area. We're like, oh my God, like our future family depends on this. And Doug was in a hot, like a cold sweat. And the superintendent of our building at the time, his name was Lance. And they were like, it's very important that your wife have a partner that helps with it. And Doug is like, this is going to be very hard for Lance. But he did it. He did it. He got it through. But honestly, by the third child, you know, Doug was no part of it. I was like, I need no ice. I'm good. Boom. We're done. Off to the races.
It is crazy that they make you mix it at home. So anybody who's not familiar, they give you these two, I guess, hormonal compounds, and you have to put them together in the syringe.
In just the right proportions.
I'm like, why isn't this done at the lab? And then we just hit it. Like, you don't have to make the Kit Kat, right? Like, make the bar and then send it to me. And I remember like watching my wife do these things, making sure it's the right amount. You got to push a little out so no air gets in there.
Right. So you don't give yourself an air bubble, like life or death.
Literally. And
That's
she's
scary.
like, did I push too much out? Will I not get it? Is this... But there was fun. I mean, Emma would get like, it would really get her going.
Would she get angry or just overly emotional?
Oh, angry. Like... But we didn't know that was the cause. So like, I remember we got into it at a Japanese restaurant. You don't realize how quiet those restaurants are until you're having like a loud blow up with like, and you know, the only thing interrupting the blow up, because everybody is already quiet at a Japanese restaurant. And then once you have like a verbal altercation, they're really quiet.
Oh, I love when somebody has a fight and I'm nearby.
Oh my God.
Doug and I, like, he'll start talking. I'll be like, be quiet. This is too important to me.
We got to lock in. Everybody was locked in. They're just slurping udon and watching us. And the only thing that would interrupt it is like when a new person would walk in and you know, the whole restaurant has to go, Hasimashe, whatever. And then Emma would feel like they were interrupting our argument. So we're fighting. Hasimasu. Emma goes, are you kidding me? And then back to yelling at me. It's just amazing.
Well, you weren't that guy who was like, she's going through a lot. These are just her emotions. I'm gonna let everything slide. I'm not gonna get mad about anything.
We didn't know that it was the case. So we didn't know until literally that night. I go, hey, did we do the shot? We did the shot today, right? And she goes, oh shit. And we're walking down, we were on Kenmare Street.
That's when you put it together that she's hormonal.
And then she was also like, oh fuck, I guess I'm like really reactive to this. And then from then on, we stopped going to Japanese restaurants.
And then how about after she had the baby? Did she have like, because you're sleep deprived, you're very hormonal.
It's the most insane thing. Did you breastfeed?
Yeah.
Okay. That is I think that is the most difficult part of child rearing is the if you are breastfeeding full time, like meaning every 2 hours.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That is insane. Every 2 hours. So you're waking up. I don't think a lot of people know this. You're waking up every 2 hours in the night. You don't get more than an hour of sleep at a time.
It's truly like an astronaut training situation. Yeah. No, it's brutal, but then it lets up a little.
When it lets up, it's this beautiful bonding experience that you have with your child. And like, it's something even now, like Emma's still breastfeeding and it's just this thing that she's like, she doesn't even want to let go of it.
Yeah. Well, then you get to like the 6-month mark where the baby can start having like smaller, like solid foods.
Yeah.
And they're still having breast milk. And you're at the point now where like you're producing the more milk than ever. And yet the baby's somewhat getting a little independent.
Yep.
And the weight comes shredding off. That's the best moment where you're like, I'm making tons of milk. All these calories are coming off for free.
Oh, because your body is burning calories.
But your baby doesn't need as much milk from you as he needed at 5 months because now he's starting to eat food.
Right.
But your body doesn't know that. So it's still burning like 800 calories a day. You're like, oh my God, I have a waist again.
Yeah.
There's a normal ass. Thank you, sweet baby. I always say they're selling breastfeeding to moms all wrong. That you would care about the health of our babies, but we know that babies who are formula fed are fine too. You have to sell it to them like Ozempic.
You'll be skinny.
Yes.
It is natural Ozempic.
It's natural Ozempic.
Let
it's
that
good
baby
for you.
suck the fat out of you.
Here's one way to clean up your medicine cabinet this season and replace toxin-filled conventional products with more natural options. Propolis Immune Support Throat Spray and Propolis Plus Vitamin C Liposomal can be must-haves in the medicine cabinet as seasonal germs start to hit. Did you know that germs can enter through your nasal passages just as easily as through your mouth? Well, that's gross. Propolis nasal spray, though, is here to help you. It's a great non-toxic swap for other over-the-counter drug-filled medications. It's non-habit forming, it's natural, and it has antimicrobial benefits. Beekeepers Naturals makes clean, non-toxic products that actually work. They never use harmful ingredients like red dye number 3 or other synthetic dyes or artificial flavors. Their products are third-party tested for all pesticides, and they are dedicated to sustainable beekeeping and helping to save the bees. Beekeepers Naturals is offering you an exclusive offer. Go to beekeepersnaturals.com/Megyn or enter code Megyn to get 20% off your order. That's beekeepersnaturals.com/Megyn or enter code Megyn. Beekeepers Naturals products are also available at Target, Whole Foods, Walmart, CVS, and Walgreens.
Yes.
So there's your babe who was born in July. That's your little boy.
My little boy.
What's his name?
Nicholas, and we call him Nico.
Aww.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this a little backstage at the Super Bowl, but how are you handling, true new motherhood?
Yeah.
He's not even a year, and this crazy job.
Yeah, it's a lot. No denying it. He's 7 months. I had him in the midst of the presidential campaign. 3 days before the president almost lost his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. My son was born on the 10th. The president was shot on the 13th. It was my first day home with him from the hospital. And it kind of threw me right back to work much sooner than I would have probably expected or hoped. But becoming a mother in the midst of this very chaotic political world that I work in has been the best thing I could have ever imagined, because it gives you great perspective and it humbles you. And my son doesn't give a crap about my job.
No.
He just wants me to come home and snuggle and play toys and be present. So it's, a difficult balance to prioritize being good at my job and being good as a mother, but I just try to prioritize my time and carve out that time when I can. And I'm so grateful to have the support system I do. A great husband who can be very present with our child, and then of course a wonderful mother and father and friends who chip in when I need them.
Your parents must be so proud of you.
I think so.
You
I
gave
hope
him
so.
a grandchild and access to President Trump in the same year.
My mom actually was in town this week to help with our baby because my husband had some work things to attend to, and she came to my briefing yesterday.
Oh.
She was in the room. I was like, "Are you sure you want to go in?"
She get annoyed by pesky reporters being
Well, I
rude?
brought in some backup yesterday. I brought in my colleague Walt and Steven and Kevin. So a lot of the questions were for them. So I asked her after, I said, "How was it?" She was like, "Thank God all the questions weren't to you today. I would have been dying in there." So she enjoyed it very much.
That's my Nana, who died at 101. She was in her elderly years, not that able to get out and around. So if I had a important court argument that was on tape, I would show it to her, and she would get so mad at the judges. She didn't think that they should be allowed to ask me any questions. She didn't like opposing counsel. Why is he saying that about you? They don't totally get it.
It's a motherly bias that we have for our babies.
All right, so you are balancing with the baby. Can I just ask you one other question on that? Because we talk about it all the time, especially on the right. And I, too, am a working mom and always have been. I've been a professional woman since I graduated from college or law school. But now there's, I think, a good thing, which is the restoration of valuing so-called traditional, moms, and that's great. The women who take care of their kids full time, most of my best friends are doing exactly that. But it seems like in the right, there's a bit of a shift toward you can't do what Karoline's doing. That's actually an unsafe or a dangerous or a bad choice for families, for children, which I reject wholesale, but you hear it more and more.
Yeah.
Do you hear that, and what do you think of it?
I would reject that it's a bad choice. Is it a tough choice? Absolutely. As a mother, you want to be with your child 24/7. You have that maternal instinct.
27.
Yeah. Not all the time. Well, right now, yes, because he's 7 months and just squishy and lovable, but I'm sure that will change. No, but you do have that maternal instinct, but also recognizing I'm doing this work for my son and for all children to make this country better. And it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Yes. It's also it's temporary, right? In 4 years, my son will be 4 years old and the president will no longer be at the White House. And then I'll move on and do something else. But, this chaos of 24/7 work is a temporary matter. And that's what at least I tell myself to get through these very long and hard days. But I would reject that you can't be a good mom and be good at your job. I think you can do both. It certainly not, it's not for everybody. And it takes a lot of work and will and faith and prayer. And it's hard, but it can be done. And, you know, I would reject that.
We can't chase our great conservative moms out of the workforce.
Right.
Then
we need
get
them.
rid of you. We get rid of Katie Britt. We get rid of Usha Vance.
Right.
Like this is not the way. Amy Coney Barrett is not on the Supreme. Like that should not be the place the conservative movement lands.
I agree.
All right. So now you start as White House press secretary, and were you thrilled to get that invitation?
Of course, yes. I was very humbled and honored, and I was campaigning, you know, with the president over the past year through the court trials. We sat in that courthouse in Manhattan with the Bragg trial, so many rallies, and we worked so damn hard to win that election.
You must have really wrestled with how you were going to meet the high bar set by Karine Jean-Pierre. Was that? Sorry. Was that out loud? No, she was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So how has your approach differed, would you say?
I think it's vastly different. And if you ask people, even in the legacy media, even the Trump haters, they will tell you the approach has been much different. Not just for me, but the entire White House. Oh, absolutely. They come in my office every day and they'll admit that off the record. Oh. Maybe not on the record, but they will say they appreciate the access and the transparency and the preparation that goes into my briefings, and everybody on our team, by the way, who goes out to the cameras and speaks. We have great policy experts who are great spokespeople for the president, and they appreciate the information that they're being given. They're also exhausted, by the way, because we are doing so much.
And not even in a wussy, sad little way. Like, they must be exhausted because it's just it's nonstop.
It's insane, yes.
So who's your least favorite?
Well, I did have a bit of a tiff this morning outside with our friend Peter Alexander at NBC News. So
it was great. We'll drop in a clip of it where he was really pressing you on whether there's going to be criminal prosecutions for this alleged fraud and the waste, fraud, and abuse.
According to an IG report from the Social Security Administration, there was $71 billion worth of fraud in one single fiscal year that we know about. And so that is a lot of fraud, Peter.
To be clear, that $71 billion was from 2015 to 2022, so it wasn't in just one year. And it was
$71 billion.
But it wasn't in one year, just over multiple years, from 2015 to 2022.
So are you defending $71 billion in fraud, Peter? That's a lot of money. Why is the media so against cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the government? I don't get it.
I just want to ask a question.
We won't be deterred. We will not be deterred from people like you and the press.
You said something that wasn't true, which is you said that they have found before that they believe there have been tens of millions of people who were receiving money who are dead on the Social Security list. The same report that you referred to said that almost none of those individuals are receiving
Peter, did you watch the full clip of the interview that I did when I said that? And I said there are a lot of unanswered questions, and we suspect there could be tens of millions of people.
I'm saying the IG report
so you just said what I said is not true. In fact, it was true. That's a suspicion that this administration has, and we're committed to finding out the truth.
It perplexes me and also infuriates me why the media continues to make excuses for our government spending billions and billions of dollars in wasteful money.
Right.
Maybe they don't mind, but I know there's millions of people watching that do mind. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing with Doge.
It was a pretty incredible exchange where it was like 71 billion has been spent on fraudulent payments, and he's like, "Oh, but that was over many years." Well,
does it matter?
Like, hello.
There's one report that showed $71 billion. Right. What are you talking about?
Eyes on the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that's good. I'm glad to hear the NBC guy's out. Good choice.
Sorry, Peter.
How do you prepare? Because you can't know everything, and you could get asked anything. And unlike Karine Jean-Pierre, you're not out there reading and furiously flipping through your tabs to try to find an answer somebody else has written for you. So how are you preparing?
So I did prepare a binder for the first briefing. My great assistant, Keegan, put it together. And then I showed up to work, and it was like this thick. And I was like, I can't even move this. I can't use this. It was too cumbersome for my brain and the way I learn and think and study to have that. It felt like added weight. And I said, I want to just go in there and speak from my mind and from my heart.
Like your boss.
Like my boss. And I've been working for my boss now on the campaign. I know the policies we're enacting. We've been talking about them for years. And in school, I was that way. Like studying, I would just read, highlight, memorize, articulate.
And then it goes off to the side.
Yeah.
And you talk.
Exactly. And so that's been my method of preparation.
No nerves?
The first briefing, I was certainly nervous. I think any human would, and I'm not afraid to admit that.
But it must have been cool, too, to get up there.
It was. Once I got up there, I realized, okay, I can do this.
I can do this.
I know what I need to know. And now I feel very, comfortable and confident, and I will never get complacent because I understand the weight of the responsibility on my shoulders speaking on behalf of the President of the United States. So I remain as prepared today as I was on that first day, and I hope that's true 4 years from now. And we have amazing people in that building who are so smart and know everything about every topic, and I rely on them. I call Stephen Miller or Mike Waltz's team or Kevin Hassett all the time, and I'm like, please explain this to me because I don't understand, but you do. So what's going on?
What's the most interesting or surprising thing you've seen at the White House? This isn't a building you spent a ton of time in before.
No. The people you see every day, especially with President Trump and his calendar of meetings, walking through the West Wing lobby, you can see anybody from Tim Cook to Tiger Woods, as I saw yesterday. So, when you see
it sounds exciting as Joe Biden's White House with the cocaine, but it's good.
Exactly.
It's good. It's
and
something.
Hunter hanging around.
Let me tell you about Financial Yield Solutions, Inc., known as FYSI. If you are handling your own books or you have a bookkeeper, you risk inaccuracies, missed deductions, and blind spots in cash flow. FYSI's team of seasoned accounting professionals, corporate and tax attorneys handle every journal entry, bank reconciliation, and month-end close with unmatched precision, delivering clear and timely financial reports that keep you in control. They weave advanced tax avoidance strategies into your bookkeeping so you capture every deduction before you file and plug you into their network of industry leaders and referral partners for real-world growth opportunities. Set up your free consultation to learn how FYSI's experts will transform your books into a growth engine and accelerate your business to the next level. Act now to claim your free $5,000 business assessment, available only for a limited time. Go to fysi.com/Megyn, use the promo code Megyn, or just call 800-877-4000 today. He did take over at the National Institutes of Health at HHS this week. And he made a comment, which he's made before, but it doesn't get old, on how meaningful it was for him and how important Trump has been really in changing Bobby Kennedy's life. Listen.
Yeah. For 20 years, I've gotten up every morning on my knees and prayed that God would put me in a position where I can end the childhood chronic disease epidemic in this country. On August 23rd of last year, God sent me President Trump, and he gave me, Mr. President, a lot of people told me that I couldn't trust President Trump, that I better get it in writing, and we did a handshake, and everything that he told me he was going to do, he has done. And I'm so grateful to him, and I've told you before, I genuinely believe that you are a pivotal historical figure, and you are going to transform this country.
Yeah.
What a moment.
Yeah. Oh, man. I watched it multiple times. And I've heard him talk about that before, about, him being in prayer and petition for 20 years. I mean, I can feel it. I cried when I was filming in Eastern Europe, Eurasia, when the election was happening. Like, I think I even was, when I was talking to you, I was over there October. Or something like that. And so we were up, hours before the U.S. was up. And so I was seeing the results, the poll results and stuff like that. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe it. This is actually happening. Like they were able to keep all of the potential, things at polls and ballot boxes and everything like legit.
And then getting Bobby across the line was easy feat.
And that's what I was saying to the other day to finally, because that was one step. And then it's like, okay, but we still got to get Bobby, Tulsi, you know, all that. And so the other day I was on a flight home and I'm seeing the confirmation and I just started crying on the plane because I really do, like, I know this man. I know him personally. And I know that he has the integrity and so does Tulsi, to go and be a leader that is non-corruptible. There are far too many people, even good people, but it's like you dangle that just little bit of like, I'm going to do good, but I'm also going to take a little bit. And then that starts with a little bit, and then there's a little bit of compromise, and then it's a little more compromise, and a little more compromise. And next thing you know, they're not doing any of the good. They're just enriching themselves with insider trading or whatever it is that they're doing. And this guy means it. He means it. And I absolutely agree with him. You know, like, I love that. Even when people saying like, oh, you better getting in writing and, don't trust that guy. Trump meant it. Yeah. He meant it. And that should show everybody too. Like, yes, he's bullish and Trumpy and all of the things that I don't like. I get it. I also understand why people have such a hard time voting for somebody like that, because you don't want your leader to have certain egotistical aspects about him. Put all that down for just a moment and see the things that he is doing well, is doing right, man of his word. That was a hard confirmation. Both of those were hard. Like, not only did the Democrats not want it to happen, but even these rhino Republicans, Mitch McConnell, get that guy out of there as soon as possible. I mean, he's just going to freeze himself out of there anyway. But, like, it happened. Yeah. And if that's not God at work to help heal this country and this world, I don't know what is.
And here it's like, even if you are against Trump, if you're against Bobby Kennedy, whatever you believe about him, like, listen to what he's saying he's going to do. Listen and ask yourself, wouldn't this be great? What's so bad about this? Here he is going on in soundbite 8. Take a listen.
We will convene representatives of all viewpoints to study the causes for the drastic rise in chronic disease. Some of the possible factors we will investigate were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. The childhood vaccine schedule, electromagnetic radiation, glyphosate, other pesticides, ultra-processed foods, artificial food additives, SSRI and other psychiatric drugs, PFAs, PFOAs, microplastics. Nothing is going to be off limits.
Yes. Hallelujah. Praise God.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. Exactly. He hit it all.
Like, isn't that what
right
on. But isn't that what someone in his position should have always been doing?
Yes.
And every one of those regulatory agencies should have always been doing.
Yes.
The FDA should have been on top of all of this instead of just taking handouts from lobbyists.
No, they're doing studies on like trans fish and COVID vaccines and how many 14th, 15th versions we need. This is exactly it. He hit all the stuff that's unhittable. Yeah. Who the hell else is talking about EMF and that glyphosate?
Glyphosate.
I can never pronounce it.
That's all right.
But they're spraying it all over our wheat, which is why it's in every box of pasta that you buy, and you don't even know it's in there. These pesticides that are all over our food. Both parties are guilty. The Republicans represent a lot of farmers too. We love our farmers, but the farmers too, I'm sure, would love to find some way of getting rid of these toxic chemicals so they don't have to swim in them all day, and they can create products that are actually healthy and good for us and taste good. No one's even talking about this other than him.
Yeah. It's a brave new world in the most positive of ways. I hope, I believe. I mean, Lord knows there's still people working in the shadows and the darkness that are trying to derail a lot of these things. So I don't think we're out of the woods just yet. There's still a lot of work to do, right?
Same as they're going to try to derail every step of Doge.
Every bit of it. But we must continue to stay in prayer and petition and believing that something really good is happening right now, and do it with empathy. Make sure that people are not being just lost in this shuffle. You know, that is my appeal, and I meant it, and for all people. But I think that these are things that have been long overdue. And we deserve it. Everyone deserves this kind of transparency. Like, light is the best disinfectant. Like, just get in there. Just look at it all. Yep. Let's have a real coming to Jesus moment. And we need to do that with all things. We need to bring the American public in on a lot of these things that have been secretive. And no, we can't tell them, like, rip the Band-Aid off.
SSRIs, talking about that openly. I mean,
time.
that has been more out there in the conversation, but it's very bold for the HHS director director to say, we actually are going to be looking into these. It's just Americans are taking the antidepressants like they're candy, and they don't realize why they're not getting better. And then they up the dosage, and then they try a different one, and then they up the dosage there. And there's no actual public health official being really straight with them on the downsides of these drugs and how there might be alternative ways, not to rip on those drugs. They have been helpful for a lot of people, but they're not for everybody. And it's the first line of defense. My friend has a daughter in college, and she went to like the college counseling place because it can be a difficult adjustment. They try to push an SSRI on her. It's like, for the love of God, maybe just talk to her. Do talk therapy. Do cognitive behavioral therapy before we just knee-jerk give the drug.
Well, absolutely. But I think that there's even more effective ways of solving for all of this. And you really got to go to the source. You got to go to the root, right? Why are SSRIs pushed on everybody so much? It's because there's incentive programs. Why are vaccine and the vaccine schedule pushed on children so hard? Because there's incentives. Why should there be incentives for doctors to push what should just be healthy and natural and good? You shouldn't have to incentivize a doctor to encourage their patients to do something that's been tested and is safe and effective and everything. Yeah. You just have a doctor say, oh, this is great. So why are you having to pay them X amount of dollars bonus to make sure if they get 95% of their pediatrician gets 95% of the people in their practice and the children all fully vaxxed up, and then you give them hundreds of thousands of dollars in return? This is not okay. So I think that if we actually start to regulate these industries, all of that downstream pushing and stuff, that's all going to kind of start to resolve itself.
Once it gets exposed.
100%. Moreover, I think when it comes to our farming situation, listen, maybe under FDR, incentivizing farmers, getting out of the Great Depression, there was some good that they were trying to do with all of that. But all that did was led to like bad capitalism, run amok, and people in industrial farming and companies like Monsanto creating glyphosate and atrazine and all of these things that are poisoning us, which is why you can literally eat all the bread you want in Europe and you can't eat any bread in the United States.
Yeah, that's the point. We don't have to have this on our wheat. We don't have to eat our pasta and our bread this.
But what I think, like one of the biggest first things that they can do is if you, instead of incentivizing farmers to do massive monocropping with industrial fertilizer, instead start incentivizing farmers, and by the way, we must, because to incentivize farmers to have regenerative organic farms.
Ron Johnson was just saying that this is a top priority for him. He's from Wisconsin. They're onto it now.
Because our soil is dead. We only have so many more cycles left because the nutrients have all been sucked out of it through all the industrial fertilizing and the tilling for monocropping. It's destroying our environment. So people that want to solve for all of these things, guys, we can help the environment and help the soil and bring down carbon in the environment. Like all of these things, if we just go back to the way we ought to be doing agriculture. And then you don't have to spray it with all the things because there's other, by the way, ways to mitigate pests and whatnot. But also, that shouldn't be in a truck going 1,500 miles to a grocery store that is not local. Grow it and sell it and eat it within a few days. That's the way it's supposed to be done when we get back to more locally sourced.
I hear we have something in common, and that is our mutual love for Meghan Markle.
Yes.
I hear you're ready to endorse her for president.
I like her now. I've come around on her because since I'm a little kid, love con artists. I think they're great. I think they're fun. They're an important part of America and the tapestry of our country. They, to me, exude a kind of effortless humor. They're very funny. Mm-hmm. And I find her to be a great con artist, one of the great cons of our time. One of the greats, you know. This is someone who came to prominence marrying into the royal family, claiming they were racist, claiming she wanted to dedicate herself to uplifting young women around the world, and is now selling jam at Target.
Yes.
That's beautiful. She moved to the richest and whitest area of our country, Montecito.
Absolutely.
And makes honey. There's nothing better than that from where she started to where she is now. And that's what I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of people that claim to be really evolved people who really want to help other people are just trying. She just wants a line of consumer goods.
Yeah.
That's all she wants.
And
give it to her.
We just looked this up. So there was a soundbite of her saying she really wanted her merch that she's selling to be prestige.
Yes.
Not prestige. She wanted it to be prestige.
Yeah.
But at like a price point everyone can afford.
Yeah.
So we looked it up. She's got a raspberry spread under the As Ever label.
Love
raspberry spread. You can get it for $14, or you can get it at Walmart under the Smucker's label for $3.47.
Right.
Herbal lemon ginger tea, As Ever, will charge you $12, or you can get it from Yogi for $4.46. Shortbread cookie mix, As Ever, will charge you $14. My Better Batch, which is high end, $7.99.
Right.
Then there's Wildflower Honey with honeycomb, As Ever, $28.
Yeah.
Amazon, $11.
Right.
And then there's Crepe Mix, which you can get from her for $14, or you can get it from New Hope Mills for $5.
Yep.
So you tell me whether this person has actually landed the plane.
Right.
On prestige, but totally affordable.
Well, what's brilliant about what she's doing is she knows people want to spend money, and spending money makes them feel like they're getting something that's better, even though it might not necessarily be true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's brilliant. You could tell when you watch the show, she thinks people we're all animals. Yeah. And that's her view. She just thinks we're all monsters and we're all just kind of pigs in the mud, and that she's helping us with jam and honey. It's also very weirdly British, isn't it?
Yeah, well, her little flower sprinkles.
Isn't it
her garden.
It's kind of oddly British for somebody who went over there and realized it was just a racist, horrible place. There's a lot of jam and tea and honey.
And why is she using all the royal crown on her stationery? I thought she hated being a royal. I thought she wanted to eschew the royal life and come back to America.
Well, it seems it's just very interesting, and seeing it all happen in real time fills me with it fills me with I recognize how much this was the plan the whole time, and you got to give your hats off to her.
It's hard to enhance your brand that quickly. Get your name out there in a ubiquitous way.
No one needs honey right now.
No
one needs jam. There's not one systemic racist problem that no one needs jam. There's not one person wrongly accused of something or whatever, doesn't have money for a lawyer, that's looking for elderberries or wildflowers or whatever the hell she's talking about. The only people that are concerned with this stuff are people she lives in an area in Montecito that's so wealthy, they're not even on Earth anymore.
No.
And it's a beautiful area. It's a great area. But they float around and they have tea and they pick flowers. Yeah. They live in a fairy tale.
She makes sun tea, Tim.
Yeah,
she makes sun tea.
And
we all have time to do.
Yeah, they kind of sit around in their backyards and they enjoy this and they smell lavender and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
it's not how you're living in LA right now?
It's not how we're living. No, we're sitting by our doors with guns.
Like normal people.
Yeah, we're sitting by the door with a gun waiting for someone to come in. That's how we're living. And
check the sun tea.
Yeah. No one's making honey. If you have honey in your house, you're using it as a weapon.
You don't have a local beekeeper?
No, there's no local beekeeper. There's no gardens. They've all burned.
Job. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have a treat for you because in addition to her new Netflix show, she has launched yet another podcast.
Thank God.
This one is about...
Thank God.
Yes, this one is about founders. How does she style it?
Is it all female founders?
Yes.
Please,
I think it's all female founders.
Is it female founders? Female founders, right?
Confessions of a female founder.
Thank God. What are they thinking about, these female founders?
Oh, here you go.
What are they doing?
She starts with herself because she now considers herself a founder.
And it's hard to find... When you are married to a prince, how do you start a business? That's a real question because the struggle she had to go through being married to a prince and being one of the most famous people in the world. How do you start a business when you're rich and famous?
Your castle's too small.
It's hard.
Your grandmother, your spouse's grandmother doesn't seem to really like you and then dies.
Yeah.
I mean, your one greatest connection is now out.
Thank God, because I want to know how this all happened, and I want to get into the mind of the female founder.
Here we go. Here's this founder discussing, I think...
Remember when she pretended to like poor people? That lasted a few weeks.
No, sex workers, I remember that with her inspo messages on the bananas.
Right.
Here she is on her new podcast.
Let's be honest. Launching a business, it can be so overwhelming. Even with the best of teams, it'll keep you up at night. For example, a month ago, I was absolutely consumed with packaging. boxes. That's all I could think about. And I would sit there doing the unboxing in my head. Is there tissue paper? What about the packing peanuts? But they're biodegradable. And where does the sticker go? And hold on, and what size the box is going to be? And no, that's not going to fit all the SKUs. Oh my gosh. And then someone says, but you don't want to brand the outside of the box because of porch pirates. Had never heard that before. What's a porch pirate? And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, does any of this actually matter? Of course it matters. It matters at the beginning, but how much does it matter?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, she's also she's kept up at night because she's half the staff quit.
That's right.
They quit
on any given day. She's
on any given day. The staff will quit because she just launches into a tirade. And for whatever reason, they feel unsafe.
She's been accused multiple times of being a bullying abuser.
Well, she's throwing honey at people's heads and stuff. So she's kept up at night wondering about what lawsuits will trickle in because of the abusive behavior towards the staff.
You're like, didn't that soundbite just hit so many of the leftist boxes? Like, are they biodegradable?
Yes.
And what does the packaging look like?
But what I like about her, I've gone the other way now because now that she's coming out as a monster... I I'm actually on board now because I'm into it because now, by the way, there's no longer even an attempt. It's such a thinly veiled attempt to be this conscientious person who, she's really just saying like, I'm a founder.
Yeah.
I'm a founder and I'm a big business tycoon, and it's tough for me.
Can I tell you, she's not the only extremely rich woman who, in her case, it's questionable, but in a lot of these other women's cases, their husbands are multimillionaires or billionaires.
Yes.
And then the women open a charity or give their money to somebody. And then they're like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, okay.
I'm a founder.
Look, I appreciate
I've connected
that you gave
people with jam.
Right. I see that your husband made billions of dollars.
Right.
But the fact that you spent some of it doesn't make you a founder.
Well, it's also she never cared. It was all about, in the beginning, it was all about unwinding the systems of oppression.
Yeah.
Remember that?
That's done, didn't you know?
Remember that?
She solved that.
Remember that? It was like she would go to a third world country and there'd be a bunch of kids dancing and she'd take a photo with them. Now it seems much more about she's looking at Gwyneth Paltrow, what Gwyneth Paltrow did with her store.
Yes.
Goop or whatever it's called. I think it's Goop.
Goop.
Yeah, and I think she's looking at that and going, that's what she wants to be. She wants to be Martha Stewart.
Yeah. Although what I found out after the fact was she launched her show with showing you how to make this one recipe. It's like one pot pasta. You make it on the stove. And then everybody flooded Twitter with the fact that apparently is a Martha Stewart recipe.
Sure.
That's apparently very well known in Martha Stewart land.
Yeah.
So even the inaugural episode is cheating off of somebody else's
Well, I mean, you
recipes.
got to hand it to her. She knows that we don't have a memory.
Yes,
the country doesn't have a memory. We have a fatally short memory. And we're kind of tolerant of however people want to reintroduce themselves in the moment.
Yes.
So she understands America.
I didn't know.
Better than I do, or maybe you do, because she gets it. We love the huckster. We root for the huckster.
Yes.
We root for kind of the criminal sometimes. And she's kind of assuming that role of going, this is who I am today.
We got to talk about Bill Belichick.
You ripped him.
Okay, I mean, I thought it was elder abuse. Honestly, what I saw there was Dr. Jill. I had Dr. Jill vibes. This overly aggressive younger partner who's in this, apparently he looked infirm to me, the way he was answering those questions. Man who's being taken advantage of. And all I could think was his family needs to do an intervention and get this woman off of his back. But can you set the stage for us on what's happening with this guy?
I'll start by saying I am a diehard New England Patriots fan.
Yeah, you're from Boston.
Diehard. I love Bill Belichick. He's my guy. He's brought so many championships. I know him personally. He lives on Nantucket. I live on Nantucket. I've met Jordan, so it's a very awkward thing to see. I also watch that show, CBS Sunday Morning, with the interview. It's like my feel-good show. I just like it. I like nature. There's some politics, whatever, but for the most part, that is a drink your coffee, eat your bagel, feel good show. So I was not expecting this interview. I was squirming. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to think about it. It certainly was awkward. I've heard people say, is she taking advantage of him? Well, he's taking advantage of her. He's sleeping with a very attractive young girl, 50 years younger. I don't know why she's so involved. Like, I really don't. I've met her. She's nice enough. She's running the whole show. I've known that a couple months ago.
How so?
Like, every piece of Bill Belichick business goes through her. Like, she is basically, she would act like if that was maybe not in a romantic relationship and that's his PR manager.
Or like an agent.
Yeah, nobody's blinking at that. Like, that happens, I'm sure, a lot with celebs, but we're not going to talk about it. Now, you combine it with Bill Belichick, who's gruff with the media and generally always handles himself. It's just a very awkward situation. The age gap is huge, clearly, but she runs the show. There's rumors Hard Knocks for HBO was supposed to do North Carolina. She shut that down. The state,
that's where he's the coach now.
Yeah, he's the coach there. So it's just it's such a juxtaposition of a guy who seemingly had no media savvy, but was always just straightforward, no time for the media, now having his life run by a 25-year-old. It certainly is eye-opening for a guy like me. I also know I'm going to run into probably them in Nantucket, and I'm going to be carrying my watermelon out of Stop and Shop, and I don't want it to be an awkward conversation.
Just blame it all on me.
Yeah.
Blame it all on me.
But it went super viral. I mean, it's all anybody's talking about. It's all, because it's just such a departure from how a sports fan, Patriot fan, everybody thought of Bill Belichick.
Well, so explain that to me, because I come into this like at a left field. I know who he is, of course. Even I know who Bill Belichick is.
He's the greatest coach of all time.
But I don't follow his, I didn't know about the girlfriend and all that. To me, he looked out of it. Like, he seemed confused. But I've never, ever seen him give an interview.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of people, like, he's wearing a holy sweatshirt. That's what he does. Like, that is his look.
Does he talk like that? Like, does he look confused generally?
He generally, if he doesn't want to answer a question, he grumbles and he says, I'm not going to answer that. He's famous for not answering questions. He's never media savvy. Him going on a book tour, which is what he was doing, seems like the last thing he would ever do in a million years. If she wasn't there, I would anticipate him just being like, I'm not going to answer it. He's rarely conducting interviews that he has no interest in. He just doesn't care for the media or what they think. The thing that he said that was the most accurate is probably like, I don't care what people think about me. And clearly he doesn't. But I've never seen him defer to anybody. Mm-hmm. Like that is the most shocking. Yeah, like if someone else is speaking for him, that never happens. He speaks for himself loudly through his actions, clearly, and is always like a general in the commander of the room, really. So to see him basically give what appears to be control of his life to her is shocking. And
most of the audience has probably seen the clip by now, but just in case they haven't, let's play it for them. Let's play the one where she interrupts. This is Bill Belichick on CBS this morning with anchor Tony Dokoupil and his 24-year-old girlfriend, who's 49 years younger than he is, interrupting the interview. Watch.
The other change for Belichick is 24-year-old Jordan Hudson, his creative muse, as he writes in his book.
Make sure that's the philosophy.
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
That's the truth.
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on.
Okay, so now how did you meet? And she interjects, not commenting about this. And there are reports that she actually interjected multiple times. CBS only chose to show the one just to give the audience a true sense of how this thing went down.
And it's about the book, and to CBS's defense, that quote that she is the muse is in the book.
It's in the book, yeah. Exactly. So now this fight started unfolding online. This is via the Daily Mail, involving Belichick's daughter-in-law. She's married to his son, and her name is Jennifer. She's married to his son, Steve Belichick. Some people were defending Jordan, the girlfriend. For example, Somebody posted, former New England Patriots star Julian Edelman.
Saw that.
You know him?
Yep.
Stuck up for her, saying she was merely acting how any PR person would. Comedian Nikki Glazer also defended Hudson, saying 100%. She's acting as his publicist. Publicists do this during interviews. People are out for blood. And first of all, I'll tell you what Jennifer, the daughter-in-law, said, but I have done countless interviews, countless. I've both given as the subject of them and conducted. Literally I've never seen this happen. Never.
Right.
The PR people will come to you before the interview and they will beg you not to cover
or
this.
ask after for it to be cut.
Yes, exactly. That's their job. As a journalist, and Tony Dokoupil is a journalist, you would say, thank you for your input.
Yep.
That's it. You would never make a promise ever. It's literally considered unethical to say, I won't ask about that. At most I've ever heard somebody say is, we can't make you any promises, but we're not that interested in that subject, like a wink and a nod. But never has a PR person ever interjected into an interview
in the middle of it. No,
it's very unusual.
Get people asking. No, if someone doesn't want to talk about it, because people generally want to talk about what you are asking not to talk about, so we won't do it. It's strange. I don't agree with that. It was strange.
It's different rules if it's like a host. You know what I mean? If you're sitting to somebody who doesn't consider themselves a journalist, very different. And by the way, this is how talk shows get away with it all the time. I've been asked to go on a bunch of talk shows, including Tamron Hall's like 5 years ago, and her executive producer said, "We'll give you all the questions in advance." I'm like, I'm not doing that. I felt like I don't want that.
Yeah, right.
So she got away with it because they consider that a talk show, but she's not, I guess, calling herself a journalist anymore, or at least wasn't for that show. Okay, so then Jennifer, Belichick's daughter-in-law,
I'm dying to hear this.
weighs in and says publicists act in a professional manner and do not storm off set delaying an interview.
Yeah, so I know them too. This is all and that probably tells you everything you need to know about how the family, and that's natural. There's a story that came out in the New York Post, I think yesterday, that she accumulated like $10 million of real estate very quickly. So I'm sure the family, based on that quote, is a little like, what is going on here? And it's just, this is a guy that is not a pushover. He has built his reputation on being like a gruff kind of guy who needs everything particular and detail-oriented. It's just very strange to see.
He's the guy Tim Walz was trying to convince us he was. No jazz hands.
Yeah.
Football.
Yeah, I don't even know if even he was the guy.
Man.
But yeah, he was trying to, I think, be more like a Gronk guy, but who knows?
Well, there's more. So you know about this because I saw you commented on it. So Bill Belichick posted a statement on the UNC, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill is where he coaches, right? Chapel Hill, I think.
Yep.
And he wrote as follows. I agreed to speak with CBS Sunday Morning to promote my new book, The Art of Winning. Prior to the interview, I clearly communicated with my publicist. So he's not even saying he told Tony Dokoupil or the CBS publicist. I clearly communicated with my publicist at Simon & Schuster that any promotional interviews I participated in would agree to focus solely on the contents of the book. Unfortunately, that expectation was not honored during the interview. I was surprised when unrelated topics were introduced, and I repeatedly expressed to the reporter, Tony Dokoupil, and the producers that I preferred to keep the conversation centered on the book. After this occurred several times, Jordan, with whom I share both a personal and professional relationship, stepped in to reiterate that point and help refocus the discussion. She was not deflecting any specific question or topic. I'm sorry, Bill, but she was simply doing her job to ensure the interview stayed on track. Some of the clips made it appear as though we were avoiding the question of how we met, but we've been open about the fact that Jordan and I met on a flight to Palm Beach in 2021, and goes on for them saying these are just selectively edited clips, suggested a false narrative that Jordan was attempting to control the conversation, which is simply not true.
Yeah, I'm like white-knuckling the table. In my years following Bill Belichick, I would say my knowledge of him, there's roughly 0% chance he wrote that. But he just doesn't care generally what anyone thinks about him. So to go write that my guess would be Jordan wrote that.
Totally.
The fact it is on the North Carolina website is insane.
Right.
It's just insane. It's shocking. Again, it's I'm speaking to all Patriot fans, Boston people. This guy, if you could have predicted this, people would say you're living in a bizarro world. It's just so strange, and this long email, crazy, the public statement, crazy. But I'm not even sure he knows that was written.
You're right.
He may not.
How does Greenland fit into all of this?
Well, the Arctic, which has gotten very little attention, but the Arctic Circle and the Arctic region is going to become critical for shipping lanes, for how do you get some of this energy that's going to be produced under President Trump. These energies rely on shipping lanes. The Arctic is some of the most valuable shipping lanes in the world. As some of the ice is melting, it's become more and more navigable. We need to be able to defend that. So if you project what the Chinese have done, it is just a matter of time before, because they are not an Arctic power. They do not have an Arctic presence. So they need to be able to have somewhere that they can stage from. And it is completely realistic to believe that the Chinese will eventually, maybe even in the short term, try to do in Greenland what they have done at the Panama Canal and in other places. And that is install facilities that give them access to the Arctic with the cover of a Chinese company, but that in reality serve a dual purpose, that in a moment of conflict, they could send naval vessels to that facility and operate from there. And that is completely unacceptable to the national security of the world and to the security of the world and the national security of the United States. So the question becomes, if the Chinese begin to threaten Greenland, do we really trust that that is not a place where those deals are going to be made? Do we really trust that that is not a place where they would not intervene?
You don't think Denmark would stop them?
I think that's been the president's point, and that is that Denmark can't stop them. They would rely on the United States to do so. And so his point is, if the United States is on the hook to provide, as we are now, we have a defense agreement with them to protect Greenland if it comes under assault. If we're already on the hook for having to do that, then we might as well have more control over what happens there. And so I know it's a delicate topic for Denmark, but it's, again, a national interest item for the United States.
So there was a conference call between President Trump and the Danish Prime Minister. It apparently didn't go very well. It reportedly involved some sort of a meltdown on the Prime Minister's part. They don't want to give it up. So what options does that leave us? Because President Trump did not rule out economic or potentially military use.
Well, I think President Trump's, what he has said publicly is he wants to buy it. He wants to pay for it. And how we worked on something like that, how something like that is approached, obviously is probably done better in the appropriate forums. A lot of the stuff is done publicly, and it's not helpful because it puts the other side in a tough spot domestically. So those conversations are going to happen, but this is not a joke. Like what he is saying is pretty accurate. People don't talk about it for years. This is not about acquiring land for the purpose of acquiring land. This is in our national interest, and it needs to be solved. President Trump's put out there what he intends to do, which is to purchase it. I wasn't privy to that phone call, but I imagine the phone call went the way a lot of these phone calls go, and that is, he just speaks bluntly and frankly with people. And ultimately, I think diplomacy in many cases works better when you're straightforward as opposed to using platitudes and language that translates to nothing.
So when President Trump said he might use economic or military coercion, what does that mean? What is military coercion?
I don't remember him saying military coercion.
He did.
Think he was asked, what would you rule out?
Would you rule it out?
Right. I don't think he's in the, listen, he also brings to
this. He said, no, I won't rule it out.
Because he brings to this is a businessman who's involved in politics, not a politician involved in politics. So he approaches these issues from a transactional business point of view. So he is not going to begin what he views as a negotiation or a conversation by taking leverage off the table.
Okay.
And that's a tactic that's used all the time in business. It's being applied to foreign policy, and I think to great effect in the first term. I mean, you look at the Abraham Accords, and the Democrats mocked the Abraham Accords when they were made. And then by the end of the Biden administration, they became the linchpin of a lot of what we're hoping to build on. That never would have happened had there not been a transactional approach. You look at what his envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, has achieved. The Biden administration asked Witkoff. They asked for him to be involved in these conversations. He has brought a businessman's approach to a very delicate and intractable foreign policy challenge and delivered a ceasefire that obviously is tenuous and has long-term challenges to it. But there are hostages being released every day. That didn't happen for over a year and a half until he became involved. And that's the president's envoy and very close friend who's brought the same kind of business approach to some of these challenges.
So let's look forward 4 years. Does the U.S. own Greenland?
We'll see. I mean, obviously that's the president's priority, and he has made that point. I think that what I can tell you about 4 years without getting into specifics, because we're not in a position yet to discuss exactly how we'll proceed tactically. What I think you can rest assured of is that 4 years from now, our interest in the Arctic will be more secure. Our interest in the Panama Canal will be more secure. Our partnerships in the Western Hemisphere will be stronger. will be stronger. We need to understand a lot of these countries in Central America, they're not destination sites. They are countries that migrants come through. And that these human trafficking rings run people through. It creates tremendous instability for these countries at a tremendous cost as well. They would welcome help in stopping that migration corridor from continuing because it's destabilizing their countries. So I think we're going to have a Western Hemisphere that's more secure, and our national interest in all parts of the world, that's the goal, are going to be more secure from the Arctic to Central America to even Africa.